Okay, I'm just getting set up here, getting my chair. Hey, Hunter, welcome. Happy Monday. I am not, or I should say, I am continuing to read Muster. If you missed me doing 2 streams working through Muster, I haven't given up on Muster. I'm gonna complete Muster. It is my goal, but we have other things to cover. Stuff that I hadn't really meant to put on the back burner. They just kind of end up there. Hey Magnus, I got a few things. I got a few things here that I didn't realize Muster was going to be quite the undertaking that it has turned out to be. So, things kind of got shifted aside. So I'm going to do Muster in chunks. And of course, you will see it. You'll see the as I pop up. As I put up the streams, I will schedule accordingly, but it's probably going to be, a little bit of Muster, a little bit of something else. I should call it like a side of Muster. Hot dog with a side of Muster. Hunter asked if I'm digging. I am digging it. I am digging it very much. I'm just going to switch cameras here. Hold on a sec. There we go. I am digging it very much. There's just a lot of it. It's dense. And way back in the day when I started doing a lot of the read-alongs, I was reading line by line. I was going through a whole book. And I think it was Errant that took me like 7 or 8 hours to get through. And that kind of killed. It just seemed like, and I'm not one who chases the numbers, okay? That being said, you can see where the interest in it was kind of declining from stream to stream. So stream to stream, which then got me in the mode of pulling back from like, okay, let's not do line by line. Let me try to find things that are interesting and really focus in on those things and not try to read the entire book. Now, when Muster came along, that's the mode I've been in pretty much since Errant. I might even start a little before that, pretty much since Errant. I was like, okay, I'm gonna be a little bit more focused, pick my spots. That way it's not taking weeks for me to get through something. And, I just think it's more efficient, and I just think it's better. I haven't gotten any complaints. I know a few folks have said they really like the kind of line by line reads, but I think for the most part, people have been kind of on board with this new way of reading that I'm doing. Now, the problem with Muster, though, is partly just it is so dense with content, and it's also laid out in paragraphs. So it's really hard for me to read something like that. Whereas a role-playing book with rules that's got laid out in sort of rules reference type, where there's bullet points and lots of things I can pick out. Oh, I can pick out this, pick out that, pick out this. In a book that's written more just like a text with just lots of paragraphs, hard for me to pick out what's important. There's been so much good stuff in there that I haven't wanted to just skip over huge swaths of stuff. And then when I have, people have said, no, you should go back and read that. It's good. And I gone back and read it, and it was good. So that means that Muster, I think, just by necessity, I have to go back to the old ways, under the old code, and read that one. But that'll be for later. Today, I'm going back to, if folks recall, if you weren't here for those streams, no worries. I did something called Itchy Monday, which I'm probably going to do every once in a while, in which I go to look on Itch to see what's brewing in the OSR community, and I pulled up stuff to look at, and I decided to try, and this is just the first one, to come up with a few that we would kind of pick out of the bunch we looked at and put them in a collection, and then have a poll, and whichever one got voted on, we would look at in more depth. There was a few that made it on the poll. The poll, I think, finished a couple of weeks ago, and just because of hook and by crook, and not aided by me getting into Muster, we had I'd put aside coming back to it, but no longer. And the winner was Longwinter by Luka Rejec. Pardons in advance if I'm butchering names. I'm reading the referee's book because, well, I'm a referee. Well, I play too, but in my capacity here, I'm generally a referee. And I think most folks will look at this from the referee's point of view. So if you're a player and you might you think your GM might get this, then send them the link to the stream, and then you should hop off or not watch, because I think this is going to have all the spoilery game mastery bits. And here is some kind of English. I don't know what kind of tea this is. I think some kind of Assam tea. It's kind of Hong Kong Hong Kong style black tea for the working man. It's getting cold out there, folks, and this makes Longwinter all the more poignant, as it feels like, at least up where I am, winter hasn't quite all the way sprung. It's certainly made itself known. Okay, this is the referee's book, as I mentioned. This is a big book. This will be another book. It'll take me 5 streams to get through. I hope not. So I don't know anything about Longwinter, as is the case usually when I read things. The other thing is I don't know anything about it, so I don't know what I don't know about it or where I should focus. I'm probably not going to be getting super into mechanics. I'm not sure what mechanics he uses, if any. I'm just going to be picking and choosing stuff. Or you were here in the chat, and if you're here live, which is a good reason to be here live, if you see something I've skipped over, or you see something that I've otherwise missed, or you know the book and you want to tell me, hey, make sure to cover this particular bit, then let me know. Hey, Ian. Okay, and yeah, Magnus points out the Fargo vibes of the cover. Yeah, absolutely. It does feel kind of Fargo-ish. And there's something I noticed here, they set up the table of contents kind of using the what do you call it? The cards, the suits of a deck of cards. So we've got, looks like, what is that? Spade or clubs, then hearts, then spades, then diamonds. Not sure if it means anything, but there it is. All right. I'll read a little bit, because how to referee the icebox, how to referee this thing is probably pretty important, and it'll give us the overall context. Because, like I said, this won the poll, but I literally, the only thing I've done is go there today. I bought the book. It's $13 on itch. There was a deal for this and the player's book, but it's expired. You have to buy them separately. I don't know how much the player's book is, but I'm guessing it's probably also $13. So there it is in terms of pricing. What does that come out to in our breakfast sandwiches? That's probably we're talking say 4 to 5 breakfast sandwiches. That would be a bacon, egg, and cheese on a bagel. Maybe closer to 3. I call it 3. 3 bacon, egg, and cheese sandwiches. How to referee the icebox. The Barony of Brezim is an RPG sandbox. Let the players weave their own adventures out of a mix of strange locations, side quests, and random encounters. It's a good idea to have numerous maps of dungeons, locations, and buildings ready to whip out for an improvised crawl. I recommend the superb and free resources designed by Dice and Logos. There are many, many available to the referee, no matter their budget. All right, let's see. Winter White's Curse provides an overarching narrative to the sandbox, survival in the face of an unending winter. As the barony gets colder and darker, Winter White snaps the doors shut. Ice worms crawl down from the peaks and up the rivers to lock the valley in ice. Do not make this immediately clear to the players or the inhabitants of Brezim. I'm not sure, what is a Brezim. Does anyone know what the inhabitants of the Brezim? Or maybe that's just the name. Announce it with portents and growing danger. Indeed, several of the factions are straight-up distractions from the threat of Winter White, and the squabbling locals will add more chaos to the mix. As the trop closes, the environment becomes harsher, travel becomes more difficult, the weather kills faster, food becomes scarcer, the baronials grow weaker, the monsters grow stronger. When the players decide to escape, it will be possible but hard. They will lose NPCs and friends along the way. Think of the movie K2 and Alive, or The Thing for that matter. Oh, The Thing, yes. The escape section provides a mechanic to procedurally generate the escape from the valley. Alternatively, it serves as a box of vignettes and encounters for winter adventures in Brezim or another wintry setting. All right, so essentially here we have a sandbox that's taking place in a barony upon which a curse has been laid that's going to slowly drown the place in a hostile and active winter. That makes sense. And then presumably they're just, or I don't know why I say and then. So the party being here in Brezim is not going to automatically be clued into what's happening. I think ideally it seems like the case would be that you're starting your campaign, you plunk them somewhere in the barony of Brezim, or maybe they arrive here and they're doing their thing and they're just doing adventures in this area. But slowly, as time wears on, and like Luka says, through portents and obviously the weather and other things, it's slowly getting colder and colder, kind of in that sort of, winter's coming kind of thing, kind of Game of Thronesy sort of thing. And then at some point, it's going to probably reach some kind of breaking point, which will really be up to you. Maybe there'll be tables in here that we'll see, in which case it might become less of how it changed the landscape and more, we got to get the heck out of here before we're frozen like some fish sticks. And then we'll have some tables how to escape. I presume maybe there'll be a way to, I mean, I guess we don't know yet if the curse is even solvable. From this, it doesn't sound like it is, but maybe there will be a path. I mean, I think I'd like to have them have a path to solve it. If assuming you want to go in that's more of kind of a grand campaign, right? You have to solve the riddle of this curse before it gets too frozen to really do anything, before your tauntauns just die at the the first marker. Magnus feels cold already. I mean, I do. I can tell you that much. Okay, a true history of Brezim. This is a fictional vignette or interlude. Okay, I'm gonna skip the vignette, not because I don't want to, but I'll leave that for folks who are interested in this. They can read the vignette, though. This part, I'll just read this part. I think this was in a lot of the preview documents. I think they quote it in Itch, so I'll just read this one part, because maybe it's probably important, right? The snow is alive. A soft, cold spirit courses through them. Her lace threads the world, watching, drinking, listening, stroking, soothing, killing. Her touch is soft and icy. She is Winter White, the daughter of the water drinker and the north wind, and she is a terrible god, an avatar of ice and hunger, of visions and death. And that is who has cursed this place, which we as referees know, but the players won't know. Winter White aggrieved. Winter White, daughter of the water drinker and the north wind, is a terrible god, the bringer of ice and hunger and visions and death. She rules her peaceful white domain with a soft, cold touch. She smiles as she inhales the souls of the dead and covers their cold corpses with a gentle shroud. She is never angry when someone breaks their vow. No, she is glad. Excuse me. For then neither Firebringer nor Green Sun, neither Devil's grandfather nor Dr. Love can guard her prey against her. All right. So you don't want to mess with Winter White. Winter White's curse. The gods stitch our human will together, but they are not human. Bum bum bum. The vow of Mira Falconbrood was simple. Save us, and we will give you our youngest and bravest. The vow amused Winter White, but she took it seriously. The vow has been broken, and now she will destroy everyone in the land she gave to the Green Corners. Was that Cummers? All right, gave to the Green Corners. It's nothing personal. It's just a vow. This year, the winter will not end. The north wind will blow. The snow will fall. The river will freeze. The iced worms will crawl. Frost will choke the sky. Darkness will come, and everyone in the valley will come to sleep with Winter White. Best not fight it. After a year and one winter, the spring will come again. Winter White is not all-powerful, after all, and the Firebringer would have words with her if she overstepped her prerogative. Okay. So it's a local curse, but it's pretty all-encompassing, and it will last for 1 year and 1 winter. A year and 1 winter. I mean, I like that they do point out that she's not all-powerful, which is nice, because that gives you... I mean, I don't know if you want to play her as some kind of Strahd-like character. I think you could have some fun with that. I mean, really, and we'll see if they get into it or not. This seems like a really fun character. Again, in that sort of Strahd-like, big bad kind of way. You might not, but maybe in a different way than, say, a lot of big bads, because the goal of your adventures may not be to destroy her. You may not be able to destroy her. You may not be able to undo the curse. You may have to make your own vow and some kind of crazy thing to turn the other curse off or soften it, which is kind of interesting. And then you can think about, well, what things would she want doing that she would then spare, right? And then now you're going into debt to Winter White, and you know what's going to happen if you don't follow through on that vow, and what kind of crazy thing is that vow? So there's really a lot of fun stuff you can have. I think especially once the players, whenever that is, realize that there's that higher power moving things behind the scenes to make it happen. Once they start to interact with that more or less directly, or as directly as they can, it seems like there's a lot of fun you could have with that. Magnus says it's a similar scenario to the Rime of the Frostmaiden module. I did not know that. I have not read Rime of the Frostmaiden, but good to know. So now we have portents of Winter White. Portents will come. The foolish modern rulers will ignore them until it's too late, of course, but these things must be done properly. In the end, the sun will close its eye over Brezim, and darkness and cold and soft silence will reign until the solstice next. So we got a D30 of portents. And it might range from white faces floating beyond windows at night, to dead leaves crumbling to snow, to hoarfrost spreading in starbursts from the graves of the recently deceased. That's a good one. Clouds freeze. Clouds, not clowns. That would be really creepy too. Clouds freezing in place, or the sun weeping ice. I think the sun weeps ice. That would be a good thing to trigger to. Something's not right here. Now, clowns freezing in place, you might just think they're mimes. So you might mistake that one. But when the sun starts weeping ice, it's good cue. Okay, so we've got some factions. As the ice embraces Brezim, as the roads are cut, as the Federation fades away, as even the Baron grows remote, it is the local ties, the bonds of blood, the cords of clan, the love of land that may yet see communities through this cold and dark. Perhaps some will even see a way to appease Winter White. Hint, hint, maybe? Okay, so we've got Winter White herself, a force of nature. Winter White is not a faction per se, but she is a force of nature. The Janus face of Summer Bright, the daughter of Autumn Wed, the mother of Springtime born. She cannot be swayed or moved by the spasms and twitches of the short cycle mortals. Even if the world became a cinder in the void, her cold domains go on and on, the ice promised in the shadow of every sun. Yet she is incarnate. She is flesh of a cold and calm sort. The dreams and nightmares of mortal souls make her so, or perhaps she always was so, and mortal lives are the fruit of her dreams and the whispers of her fellow gods. She can be bargained with, she can be paid. She is coming, and she will come. That cannot be stopped, but she is still listening. Yes, as Magnus says, very poetic. Yes, it is flowery at times, and that can work, sometimes work for or against. I think in this case, at the moment, it's working for, and I think the reason, the reason is, one, it is well written, so it works that way, and the other thing is there's no mechanics here, right? Sometimes I think that can happen with Gygax. Gets not into trouble with this, but it can kind of go kind of a little bit off the rails with him and with other folks, is when that flowery text is interfering with our ability to analyze mechanical things that we need to know. In this case, it's all narrative, or it's all description. So flower away. Obviously it can get to be too much, but I agree. Right now it's working for me. All right, so we got Winter White. So we have some, it's like some tables of angering her, or how to anger her, or, I see, what happens if you do anger her. So angering her, you can anger her by killing her messengers, denying her dominion, bringing foreign gods like Dr. Love into her collection. These things focus Winter White's attention, and then we could roll on a table to see kind of some things that might happen. You can, listening to Winter White, offering her tribute, building altars to her, sacrificing warmth and life to her, accepting her as cruel but necessary, submitting to the cycle of the world, to her and her sisters, mothers, and daughters. Okay, so basically that's how you listen to her. And if you do listen to her, you might get these, looks like we have a table of 10 different things. Magnus says that Worlds Without Number has that issue here and there, that is of flowery language interfering with mechanics. I'll take your word for it, Magnus. It's been a minute since I looked at Worlds Without Number, but yeah, look, we want things to be well written, and I think we look for things just like beauty in art, beauty in the word. But yeah, sometimes you got to know what you're trying to do. That's kind of my ultimate thing, right? Is ultimately these books should be usable to do the thing that they're meant to do, which is game. So when the writing or the art starts to interfere with its game ability, then that's where I start to reject it a little bit. I don't recall Words Without Number specifically, but I believe you. I believe you. Okay, now the baronials. These are the lords of the realm. The powerful of Brezim, the landowners, the freeholders, the citizens, the militia members. They differ from the old settlers. Interesting idea of putting it as one word. In culture, dress, wealth, and education, but to any visitor from a distant province, they are the same people. Growing stronger, tightening control, gathering food and fuel, fortifying their settlements, defeating the wolf folk, controlling the old settlers. And then what happens if they do? So there's a couple things I like with just this list. Is the list isn't, so here it's like they have kind of goals in a way, or they could be the result of things, but notice we're not getting any sense of, well, how are they doing this? It could be the players are doing it. Could be things that when you have NPCs that are of a baronial faction, what they might be doing. We don't have any sense of what it means other than the words, right? Tightening control. What does that mean specifically? Well, it can be anything you want. However you see in this world, what would tightening control look like to you? If they start to do that, then maybe some of these things could happen, and you could probably pick one, or you could also roll the dice. But I guess what I like about it is it's not so vague that you don't understand what it means. At least me reading this, like if I say like, oh, the baronials, who are they? They're the powerful landowners. Okay, what are they doing? They're tightening their control. Now, granted, I have no detail about what that means, but I can envision things already, what that might mean, right? It could mean, drafting people into let's say the militia, drafting people into the militia, forced service. It could mean taxes and really squeezing folks for more taxes, or it could be putting tolls on the road. All these different things that you think about when you think of governments or folks in power kind of tightening the screws on the populace. That's tightening control. Now, maybe he means something else. I don't know, but it works for me. And that's for me, that's sort of all I need. Could he have put a table of tightening control and all these little things? Yeah, he could have. But in this case, he's just giving us almost the thematic things they're doing. Gathering food and fuel. We get that. You're stockpiling. What does that look like? It doesn't matter. How are they doing it? It doesn't matter. They're doing it. We in our individual games can figure out, what are we doing? As Brian Smith says, they're rationing our crusts of bread. Exactly. Fortifying settlements, going off and defeating the wolf folk. We don't know who they are yet, but who knows who they are, and then controlling kind of the old settlers. All that stuff. If we do that, they will go stronger. We have a bunch of things that might mean. I'll just read, let's see, one of them. Disloyal serfs, fifth columnists, and other troublesome mouths are kicked out of baronial towns. Dismembered traders are clearly displayed on roadsides and crossroads. This is great too. And I would also use these. So what you could do is, you could create a table out of these. And I mean, out of these things, like if you wanted to have, let's say you have a baronial settlement. I guess settlements would all be baronial in this case. But anyway, baronial settlement. And the parties, this is their home base. They're coming and they're going. And you could make a roll using whatever kind of oracle you want to see are they getting stronger, or are they kind of growing weaker? What's happening, right? They're facing setbacks, or they're growing stronger. If they grow stronger, then you could roll on this die. When the party comes back, suddenly they see on the road back into town the dismembered bodies of traders, in those, I forget what they call them, gibbets or whatever, hanging outside the gates. That's a new thing. Like, oh my gosh. And that can kind of signify something to them. Maybe not, but they might think about, oh my gosh, they are exerting their control. On the other side, we have a facing table about facing setbacks, which might be if they have to relinquish power or they lose a settlement, control thereof. I'm assuming they're either pushed out, they're losing battles, the old settlers are rebelling, skin takers are sowing dissent, whatever they are. And then, of course, on the flip side, you might have something like, let's say, isolated farmsteads are looted and torched. So same thing. The party's on their way back to town. There are farmsteads that are on the outskirts of the settlement proper, and they're coming by, and now they see the dark smoke, the burnt. They can smell the burning, and they can see that destruction. And I go, oh, okay. Well, obviously something has happened here. So these kind of work not only in terms of just cause and effect, but also in terms of giving you kind of events or ideas for events when your party's moving around that will make the place feel kind of dynamic and alive. Brian Smith says, can they make a character who is a trumpet player named Baronius Monk? I suppose you could. I'm not sure how far he'd get in this environment, but I would allow it. The old settlers, those who were first, choose who are last. All right. And they grow stronger by taking back their lands, regaining control, throwing off bonds, finding freedom. And their setbacks are they're hunted, they're beaten, they're exiled, they're mutilated, manipulated, or betrayed. Then we have the wolf folk. Yes, who are the wolf folk? It looks like the wolf folk are allies of Winter White, for they come with her winter. They come down from their high and deep, cold and dark fastnesses. I do love the term fastness. They drive drakes and giants, demons and monsters. But they are no allies of winter. They are the mirror of civilization, the abyss of Amimami, the subconscious terror of the baronials made flesh in their oppression. The long winter, the dark night, has simply given them the opportunity they have been waiting for so long. They are the oppressed, whose yearning for freedom and dignity has become a thing of twisted envy, hatred, despair, greed, longing, hunger, loathing, self-destruction mixed with unrequited love, the anti-eros, the thanatos that comes forth in this long dark. Magnus says, oh no, furries. So how do they go stronger? They go stronger as the night lengthens, as the cold grows more bitter, as the fires go out and the living dwindle. Indeed, the deeper White's winter becomes, the stronger the wolf folk become. And they have a whole bunch of things. We're looking at 16? Yep, 16 different potential things could happen. Of course, you could always add your own. I'll just pick one that's not too long. A village goes dark, no messages get out, roads are cut, lights fail. Yeah, pretty simple, easy peasy. And their setbacks are they're tracked down by right makers, hunted down, burned out of hideouts, stopped with piety and prayers to the old gods. Oh, here we have a picture of that wolf folk guy. Kind of looks like, I'm not sure. It looks like somebody's been on a desert island too long and he's riding on, something. Some kind of multi-headed demonic monstrosity. Almost looks like he's surfing down the mountain. Okay, old architects, are they aliens or ancestors? Or if the ancient astronauts are to be believed, both. Magnus says, I'm the Lorax, I speak for the breeze. Could be. In truth, the old architects are a red herring, the ghosts of a faction, the false promise of a powerful past now dust. The ones returned to life are echoes and reverberations of heroes and villains who hope to cheat death. Now in this cataclysm of winter white, they hope to sneak out into the world once more. So they grow stronger by awakening, spreading from their vaults, finding helpers and allies, expanding their influence, and they are set back by sickening, not adapting, being hunted, misunderstanding the world. Those are interesting because some of those are kind of internal to them. Brian Smith asked that dude was Edgar Winter. It would be very apropos if that was indeed Edgar Winter. Okay. Here we have the picture of, looks like some kind of, it get a little bit of it's not quite the same style, but I don't know, like Tintin cross a little bit of Adventure Time in the images. That makes sense. And the picture says it's an OA corrupted snow ape lumbering thoughtlessly. And I guess somebody following that OA corrupted snow ape. We've hit a chapter of sorts. Days of white snow and red ice. Longwinter covers 100 days, 3 months and change that take the barony of Brezim from late autumn to the dark year of Winter White's curse, when the sun is obscured until the solstice returns again. You can use the 3 months as an actual calendar or as a random table to generate weather and events. Where events are large scale, encounters affect only the heroes. Like the weather, the encounters are also split by month and time of day to model how Winter White's curse changes the land. Roll encounters every watch. Until halfway through the second month, there are 2 daytime watches and 2 nighttime watches. After that, as the darkness gathers, there's only 1 daytime watch per 4 watches. Some encounters inflict stat loss. A stat is any number on a character sheet. Health refers to any health stat. In a D&D type game, the stats are strength, dex, etc., while health is usually HP. 1 point of damage should suffice in most games that do not have ready access to infinite healing. If you're using 5th edition, Longwinter assumes greedy healing rules. Okay, so the first bits of, or not necessarily mechanics, but we're going to get some mechanics presumably, and it's going to be, seems like going to be extraordinarily system generic. And I like that they give you a thing. Hey, if you're playing this kind of game, go this D&D style, you got this. And then if you're 5th edition or some other thing like that, then, we assume this, which is good. Days of Autumn. And here we get our first map, the Barony of Brezim. Before Winter White tightened her grip, autumn seemed normal. It was cold, it rained, sleet, and leaves fell. Start your ice box here if you want a slow lead up to winter. Use the standard map. And I'm guessing this is the standard map. Which we get. I don't see hexes on the map. Oh, no, wait, no, is it? No, I don't think it is. Methinks is no, not that. We got, let's see. I like the use of color. I'm guessing the white is snow, and maybe is that sort of tundra and then more forest green, or is that just, or am I just looking at heights? It doesn't say. We have towns. I don't know. Well, they have different symbols for the towns, but I don't know what they are supposed to mean. One of them, one that has a red background, seems to be, should I take that to mean kind of a castle? I don't know. I'm not sure. We have hamlet and village, and we have some icons for peaks and high peaks, and then we get travel time and watches. So it looks like we're going with sort of a point crawl approach, at least along the roads, which I like, because roads are essentially a point crawl. And we get how long in watches it takes. So for example, if we're starting out at Casti and we want to head to Rudve, that looks like two watches. However, if we're going from Casti to Pay Tearsley, that looks like half a watch. You get there. I like that. It's nice to have on the map too, because then you can. And I'm guessing this is a. I don't know if in the. So I don't have the player guide. I just bought the referee's guide, so I don't know if there are player maps in there. I'm gonna my intuition says maybe. Brian Smith are using icebox instead of sandbox. Yes, I think that's a play on words right there. We're playing in the cold, so yeah, it's an icebox. All right. Now we get autumn. Looks like we got a D30. We also have, I guess we need to roll for a day of the week. Let's see. I'm just sorry. I'm just want to see if it tells us anything. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I'm curious how we're supposed to use this. So we can roll for a weekday. We can roll for the weather, day and the night, and we can roll for events. I'm wondering, or would we go? Yeah, I don't. Or is this the day? 30 days. So we'd go from. I guess you could do that too. So I'm not sure how you're supposed to read that. I presume we can use it however we want to. One way could be just start with Thursday, and this use the one for the day and just go down. Or you could roll. I'm wondering which would be neat is it works kind of both as random table, but also just as a calendar. Hey, you're starting first day is Thursday. It's fine and sunny. The winter's gonna be cold and clear, and it's the day of all ghosts. Great. And then the next day it's bracing and cool. It's windy and cold, and it's market day in Rudve. Bam. I mean, that seems cool. And then we'd also have some encounters. So remember, sort of events are more regional, whereas encounters think that happen just at the party. So when you're rolling those encounters once per watch, you might get if it's the daytime, you might get a dragon flying surreally. I don't know what the surreal part is, but sure. Or at night, it could be the Dark Father, spirit of the first Baron. Boom. Very little detail here, right? And we don't know. Like, I don't know what flying surreally means. You just got to play with it. And then, hey, it just gets Dark Father, Spirit of the First Baron, which is interesting. It looks like, is that a page number? Maybe it's a page number for that. Because that's one that I might go, well, how would anybody know? The Spirit of the First Baron showed up. It's like, we just got here. How the heck do we know what the Spirit of the First Baron is? I mean, of course, they could say, I am the Spirit of the First Baron. I mean, I suppose that's always an option. We'll see if we get any more descriptions. Okay, now we're into the days of winter. As the winter descends on Brezin, the mule roads begin to fight travelers and the passes out are cut. Start the icebox here if you want to go straight into the survival horror as the sun fails to be reborn at the winter solstice. So, right? So we went from, okay, it's kind of normal autumn. If you want to kind of roll them into it slowly, you throw them in there. They're around for a little bit, have some fun, but then things start to get bad. And now we could see that before we had a trail from Casti to Rudve, and it is closed. So this is cool. Another nice thing, right? So you can see that physically the maps have changed, not the geographically, but notice that the white has expanded, meaning the snow has come down, and it has totally obliterated some of the pathways. So that the party could have left, gone from Casti to Rudve. They spent a couple days in Rudve. They look to go home, and it's like, oh no, we can't. You still have a route, but now you're talking way longer to go around. So you can have some fun throwing down your players when the first kind of heavy snows come down or wherever you're going to use to trigger that. It's, whatever, event you want to use to signal the fact that not necessarily even at this point you might not know something really awful is happening, but certainly you might hint that heavier snow's coming early, whatever. But the upshot is that the practical effect is that the player party could have been cut off from somewhere they just went. They spent a couple of watches getting the Rudve. They do their business thinking they're going to turn back to Casti, and it's gone. Now we get similar tables. December, raw soil, winter. I start off on Saturday. There's an icy crust on heavy snow. There's freezing winds, and it's a full moon. So on and so forth. Another 30 days, basically, if you're going to use them in order. And then we've got the dragon flying nervously. So first it was flying surreally. Again, I'm still not quite sure what that means, but I get more about flying nervously, which makes sense. Something is not right. The dragon, presuming we're playing with kind of intelligent, ye old intelligent dragons who are very knowledgeable in the ways of magic and whatnot, are going to know, yeah, something's not right. And that might explain why it's flying overhead, trying to figure out what the F is going on. And then at night, you might see a white giant, beard of rime, eyes of silver fire, which I think was in the picture right there. And that's a cool picture too. Now we're into the days of deep winter. They rail against the fading light, but it is too late. Start here if you want 40 days of bleak despair in a game focused on scrounging the resources required for escape. So it seems to me, the way this is setting up, I don't think, it sounds like there's no way to make it out. I mean, not make it out, it's not the right word. There's no way to hunker down here. You cannot hunker down here for the winter, for this long winter. I guess maybe not. I mean, I'd be curious to say what options are. Of course, I would always allow the party to try to come up with options, even if nothing's really going to work. That's their prerogative. It happens all the time where people think like, I can make it through. I can survive Mount St. Helens erupting. And then the next thing on the news is, people who thought they'd survive the eruption of Mount St. Helens, but didn't. And that's a reference that's going to date me pretty cruelly. But, I remember as a kid when Mount St. Helens erupted and there was when we knew it was going to erupt, and there are all those things, get off the mountain, get away. And there were all those folks who decided not to get away, who thought for one reason or another that they were just going to stay and they'd make it. And some of them probably did make it. Most of them didn't. And they did that movie. And I think it's Art Carney played one of these like old guys that didn't want to leave his home on the mountain. It was an interesting time. What made me think about that? Now let's see. It looks like you can still make it through the river. I'm wondering, but now everything is basically some shade of ice. It would be nice. The one thing I would have liked is, okay, I'm assuming white is snow, right? We got that. I think seems pretty clear. White snow. What's gray? Is gray lighter snow? Is gray ice? Is white ice and gray is snow? And I think that's where, like with the colors for the towns, like what do those things symbolize? We're not told. We weren't told about what if it was just altitude when we looked at the early maps. So I would have liked it just a little bit. Just give me what those colors mean, because everything else is so nicely set up. But then I look at the colors, and I'm not sure if I'm supposed to take that as to heavy vegetation, light vegetation, or am I just supposed to take it to lowland, midlands, uplands? Help me out. Magnus said that gray equals ice was their auto assumption as well. Yeah, I'm just not sure it fits, right? Because you would think the higher peaks would be ice and the lower would be snow, but I don't know. I don't know. So that'll just be something where it would just be nice, because it's just a little bit of confusion that we don't need. Because it looks like the darker gray is in the valley area, so I might assume that that's more snow and that the rest is ice. I don't know. Chthonic Musing says that 536 AD was a year of global winter. Scientists think it was caused by a massive eruption of Krakatoa. I think I heard about that, but yeah, that's awesome. I wonder if that was inspirational for this. I wonder if George R.R. Martin used that as his inspiration for his winter is coming stuff as well. Now we get January. We're into deep winter. Starts on Monday with wet snows falling patchily, ice coating the forest by night. And it's the Belna Farm Market. probably not very, probably a very busy market, I assume. And then some encounters we get in winter. Let's see. We don't get any lion. I was going to say lion. We don't get a dragon this time. We get the winter bird, Croaking Doom. And at night, Winter White's Angel Hunt, Freezing Blood, and Smashing Bone. And we have a little note here. Unless Winter White is appeased, deep winter weather continues for the next 12 months. Desperation mounts until the folk embrace the blue sleep or flee. Ooh, nice. I like that concept of blue sleep being frozen. Magnus says a volcano in Iceland may be partly responsible for the crisis of the 3rd century as well. Oh, really cool. It's really neat how that stuff interplays. Ice zombies. Yeah, Frederick. Totally could see ice zombies coming up. Let's see. We've got, what is this? Random items. So in a body on the snow, about to rise. I don't know what that means. I guess we're just supposed to, the one thing with it, like I love the different descriptive stuff, but sometimes they can make it difficult. Like, so Frederick just said ice zombies, and they also mentioned white walkers. Then we get this a body in the snow. It's called random items. And I guess the body is about to rise, meaning it's kind of becoming undead. Is that what it's supposed to be? Or was it frozen, or did it die in mid, like trying to lurch to its feet kind of thing, like you see on Everest where there's a body of somebody sitting? I'm not sure. But anyways, it has a crackpot amulet, a rune scored cooking apron. All right, so those are 3 different things. I think. I'm not sure why he's using double dashes like that, like an EM dash instead of just commas, but so you get about to rise, crackpot amulet, rune scored cooking apron. Well, rune scored, I don't know what that means. I don't know. I guess you just got to it almost feels like these are, at least some of them are just going to be inspirational. Crackpot amulet, I kind of get. Crackpot, I'm not sure what that means in terms of crackpot. You think of a crackpot religion. You're kind of in our day and time, sort of a cult kind of thing. So maybe you say crackpot amulet is an amulet from some kind of cult that I guess in the authorial sense, we're saying it's not quote unquote real or serious or whatever you want to, however you want to define, because crackpot's usually like it's loopy and it's not, has no basis in reality, I guess. Rune scored as an item, I don't know what that means. I guess is the body itself rune scored, maybe. And then a cooking apron is an actual item. Frederick says, remember the tauntaun smells worse on the inside. That's true enough. Magnus likes the blue sleep. Yes, or I think so. I like the blue sleep anyway. Now we have a body that's bound. It's twitching, has an iron knife. This is a weird mix of stuff. I feel like it's not quite random items. It's like one item. Let's see, this hanged one. This has all items: a purse of silver, a legal deed, and a donkey skull. These might be a little bit too random for me. It's not bad, but if someone hanged you, I suppose at this stage of the game, the purse of silver doesn't do any good. Because I would think another one, why would you hang someone and leave the purse of silver on them unless it was a statement, I suppose. Legal deed, also kind of interesting, where you'd think somebody would take it, but I don't know. But then the donkey skull, like, why would you hang somebody and just, like, a donkey skull is not small. Not like you just got that hanging on your belt, like a lucky rabbit's foot that wasn't so lucky. A donkey skull is fairly large in the scheme of things. So unless you mean to, I mean, what would be interesting is if has hanged and they put the donkey skull on their head. Yeah, that would be kind of creepy. Maybe that's how I would run that. But it's an interesting mix because it's not. Oh, I got someone honking outside my door. What's going on the street? I don't even want to know. Anyway, I think someone's hemmed in. But you're bothering me, Kai. Magnus says, make your player kill their favorite horse. Seems like it. Magnus says, imagine making your players have to slaughter pack animals to hide in. Yeah, I mean, I think if you're in this part of the game, this is kind of what you're doing, right? This is probably exactly what you're doing. Is your party is now scrambling to figure out either A, how do we get the heck out of here, or B, how are we going to make it through? Maybe, I mean, and is usually what's probably going to happen is you're not going to realize, right, unless you've read all the portents and everything absolutely correctly, you're probably not going to realize that it's not ending. Because that's the key thing is, okay, it's winter and it's rough, the roughest winter on record. But you might think like, well, we can get through. How long is winter anyway? Oh, it's a month. We can figure something out. It's like, it's not going to end for a year. And then there's going to be that part where you're probably trying all this stuff, maybe doing things like killing your pack animals, and then ultimately realizing we got to get the heck out of here. And geez, wouldn't those pack animals have been nice to help carry stuff? Only we butchered them, slept inside their carcasses, and ate their intestines. I mean, it's a choice. So you might find a cache under ice. You might find an ancient vault. You might find a memory of summer. All right, I guess memories of summer is sort of something fun. It's more of, these seem like more like events. So a funeral, a wrestling match, smoking by the river. I don't know why they call them random items, unless they're using items in a more general term and just kind of, as opposed to stuff. Okay, danger comes to the old mule roads. And you see some guy, he's got a round shield, he's got a battle axe. Frederick says, just find a bag of holding and go to the go to the bag. Into the bag, everybody. The bag is not, I don't think the bag is heated, though. I don't think the bag is heated. I think the bag, you're going to freeze and run out of oxygen pretty quick. I don't think the bag's going to help you that much. So now we have on escape. So first off, trying to get out. This section concerns itself entirely with how to run a death march through a frozen wasteland. It builds on the ideas hinted at in the previous chapters, mentioning the wider calamity of a year without summer. It deals with getting out of Brezim and the conditions prevalent in a frozen winter wasteland. Not wonderland. Frozen winter wonderland would be lovely. No, this is a frozen winter wasteland. Frederick says Bag World from Hackmaster and KOD. I don't know. I'm not familiar with those items, Frederick. So you got me beat on that one, as you usually do. Okay, so now we're getting to the point where if the party decides like, oh gosh, we got to get out of here. So first off, this is not normal. The cold has finally become too much. Where before the old hunters were turning wild-eyed from their hides in the crumb holes on the edges of the Alpage could be dismissed. Now there's stories of crawling tongues, rivers, and snakes of ice locking the valley in a vice ring too true. The words are on every worker's chapped lips and every pair of ice-tinged eyes, whether leots or ladies or lords. This is not normal, say those looks, say those faces. Siras and Siros attend the Baron Soren Green Corner in the Rudve Fortress. Attend or hole up there. They have brought wagons and servants and militias. They have requisitioned wood and oil, furs and silver, for security, for redistribution. Workers and peasants gather beer halls and village manors. I guess gather in, I don't think they gather. They don't bring 3 beer halls. I'm guessing they gather in beer halls and village manors. Faces grave as they count their supplies and their duties. Thoughts grim as they read the nobles' quote-unquote requests. Old folks swaddle themselves in furs and disappear into the deep woods to die or to plot. Some smile at the baronial's discomfort. Others look uneasy. A few talk of the old demon, the death that comes with the cold sleep, the harsh measure of winter white. This is not normal. Everyone knows and does not have to say. All right. So there's the kind of the whenever this happens, whenever you get to this point, either you can decide as the GM, you can roll some dice, your players may start to figure it out. You can show in terms of what's happening in the world that, yeah, the players aren't the only ones that have figured out that, yeah, stuff's just went around a corner. Right. Now, questions for the players. Even the players will say eventually that this is not normal. Confirm that they are correct. You are correct. This is not normal. Now that they think about it, the signs were there for a while. Everyone is asking themselves, who is responsible? Why is this happening? Does it even matter? Is survival not the priority now? How bad will it get? Yeah, I think these are all questions they might ask. And I do think that I appreciate that they've positioned this as escaping, because while it would be nice, and I don't know if they'll have an option here, or they've kind of left it open to you and to the players if they want to try to appease Winterwhite. But I think, especially in old school games, especially in sandbox games, there's always a possibility of the players just noping out of there. And so this is hitting it head on. Like, we're going to show you it's not going to be easy to nope out of here at this stage, but we're going to give you the procedures to do it, as opposed to pretending that the players aren't going to potentially nope out of here. Because a lot of them will. A lot will be like, we don't owe anything to these baronials, these people. We just were here kind of hanging out and doing stuff. I want to get south. I want to go to Pismo Beach. Right. So let's get out of here. And so I appreciate that they're not pretending that there's something keeping the party here. Like, oh, we're going to have a year and a day of hellish winter, but we're not really going to address the idea that your players may want to leave. Instead, they're putting that at front. Like, no, we are totally addressing how they're going to leave, and we'll be shocked if they wanted to stay. Let's see. Frederick says the old OSR "Do Not Let Us Die in This Cold Winter" minigame would be perfect here. Oh, yes, I remember that game. And then Brian Smith says, how long can you really string out the this isn't normal reveal when a group signs up for a campaign? Brian continues, like, wouldn't that be up front? We're going to play a setting that is Winter Wasteland. I don't think so, Brian. I think that I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. I mean, I suppose it depends on your table and your play, but I wouldn't. This is something that I would throw at them as sort of I would say we're playing a survival focused, or so, grounded, kind of campaign. But I don't think I would say, hey, you're playing in a Winter Wasteland. I think this would be something that happens kind of whenever you, as a GM, you're going to have choices here, right? Because Brezim, if you were to plunk Brezim on your map, it's really not going to be available till you talk about it. I mean, presumably the players could ask, maybe you have it on some map and they see, oh, Brezim, I like the sound of that, let's go. But mostly they're not going to really think about it until you kind of send them in that direction, or at least put it on the edge of their map. Or you could just adapt this and use this to wherever you are, presuming it's in some kind of valley, some kind of mountainous valley. I think it would probably work best. So I think in that way, you just kind of slowly draw it out, right? You're doing your thing. You're crawling around the map. You're bouncing around his towns, taking on jobs. And yeah, just things start to go bad. You could totally start it. If you wanted to start a campaign and just go straight to the survival part, I think that's what they said, just start it later on and say, hey, you're playing in this thing. Now we're going to get into how to, like the section right now, how to referee a survival game. So if you wanted to start it just in the problem, in the end, that point you would say for your campaign, hey, we're going to play this Brezim. Like, you have a couple options here. One is just to get out, and one is to maybe do this other thing. Kind of like you were playing Isle of Dread, right? You're going to start with a little preamble and a little map thing, whatever, and then you're basically washed up on the beaches of the Isle of Dread, and it's like, okay, what are we going to do? You're going to try to just get out? You're going to try to figure out the riddle? What is it? I think that would be the other way to do it. But I think, to me, the more fun would be is this is just part of the game, and that there's this event that's happening, and the party just happens to get there when this is happening, presumably, or it's an option at least. But I think if you were going to play it as, hey, this is what we're starting, then you just start later in, you start right at winter or at the bad winter or whatnot, if you want to do the just survival horror business. Okay, how to referee a survival game. Congratulations, you've reached the point of the icebox where the players realize that the whole campaign was just a cover, a red herring for the real adventure, survival. Optionally, if you want to just run an ice survival adventure, this is where it begins. Great. This kind of adventure has some specific constraints. Because the antagonist is impersonal, there isn't a big boss to beat. There's no expectation of a climactic confrontation. There's no emotion contained in the antagonist, and there's nobody actively trying to thwart the heroes. The antagonist simply is. Man against nature. This means that as a referee, you can't simply keep raising the stakes, introducing new enemies, and developing a plot, because that makes the antagonist personal. You also don't have a villain to play. You cannot embody the Winter to deliver a scathing speech, to tug on heartstrings with a nuanced childhood story, or even deliver a lazy, "You haven't seen the last of me." The Winter doesn't care. In Longwinter, I suggest two methods of delivering a gripping survival adventure. First, the challenges of survival. Use playing cards to procedurally generate a sequence of situations for the players trying to escape the icebox. Okay, so then that refers back to what we saw on the table of contents, right, with the suits. This takes the antagonism out of your hands and makes you the arbiter of the will of the uncaring cards. You can cheer for the players to succeed as much as you like, but have the players draw and play the cards publicly, so it is clear that it's the deck, the environment, building this challenge for them. Second, the emotion of the story. A survival story is about fear and hope, terror and relief. Life and death are possible outcomes, but it is the emotions we play with. Do not ask for characters' emotions directly. Narratively, as referee, focus on their sensations: sight, sound, smell, temperature, pressure, wind, movement, acceleration. Focus on the physical, embodied sensations, on what and how the characters' bodies experience the Winter. On what and how the character... Okay. Give them clear physical options. You are clinging to the slick, cold rock, but see no way further up. Do you drop back down into the deep, pillowy snow, or try to jump across the opposite face of the crack? If you fail to jump, you will hit the hard, sharp rock and tumble down, banging knees and elbows. Ask them if their character's heart is racing, if their palms are sweaty, there's a knot in their belly, if their muscles are burning, if their knees hurt. Ask them how their character reacts to a blow, to a fall. As supplies run low, as the cold draws in, as injuries accumulate, the emotion will follow. All right, so that's good because I think people are going to need that and need to be kind of reminded of that. I think there probably might be a tendency for some GMs to really, like I said before, kind of. And I still don't think this would be a bad thing, but to play Winter White as Strahd, where she's more kind of active and incarnate and personal, still could be a lot of fun. But I also get where they're coming from, which is it's not really the point. Winter White's the mechanism which this is happening, and it's a potential out. But really, it's not the party versus Winter White in the way that the party is versus Strahd in Curse of Strahd or Ravenloft or whatever. So it's more that here's the reason why it's happening, but basically it's just happening. Magnus says, is there vomit on their sweater already? Mom spaghetti? Gross, Magnus, gross. We're a family show. Come now. The problem of tools. Some games offer heroes many tools that render environments irrelevant, whether spells, artifacts, or technologies. I often find these deployed too casually. As soon as heroes can ignore terrain through flight or teleportation, whether through resistance and immunity, the role-playing campaign has moved to an entirely different stage, one that makes this kind of adventure essentially unplayable, and I would argue boring without a significantly different setup than offered by, like, Our World in the past, but with magic. My recommendation is either removing these kinds of character tools outright or providing severe material and mechanical limitations on those you permit. Flight may be provided by fragile magical wings, which have to be stowed and carried. Resistance to cold could be provided by a magical cloak, which must be cleaned, repaired, and maintained. They might certainly be created by spells, but they are imagined within the fantasy as physical objects which can be stolen, broken, and lost. Right? So, this is the kind of the whole thing. If you give your party a bunch of magic items that are going to make everything a non-factor, then you've rendered the adventure meaningless. So it's not going to be hard. They're just going to march out. Oh, we put on our rings of elemental resistance and we just walk out of here. All right, we teleportation circle, great. Where do you want to go? All right, we're done. So, be cognizant, be aware of such things. Eminem's a family guy. He is now, I guess, right? I guess in 8 Mile, he was probably a family guy of a sort. Survival card mechanic. This is version 2.0 of the card generator. Get a deck of ordinary playing cards, the ones with hearts and diamonds, clubs and spades. These will generate the narrative framework of the survival adventure. Show them to the players and explain this mechanic to them so they understand this adventure and how it works. Different suits represent different terrains, complications, and characters. Diamonds represent ice-filled locations, supernatural challenges, and magical characters. Spades are mountains, physical challenges, and violent characters. Clubs represent forests, resource challenges, and natural characters. And hearts represent rivers, social challenges, and helpful characters. Okay. So a star represents notes challenges, while I guess there's a little silhouette of a face. A head stands for characters. In every case, lower numbers are less challenging. Higher numbers are more challenging. Aces are mixed. Is there something for face cards? Or are they just part of the numerical schema? To escape and win, the players have to collect a set of cards, 3 of a kind, e.g. 3 kings, or 4 in a row, 2, 3, 4, and 5 of diamonds, or deplete all the location cards, not very likely. The higher value their set, the better their escape result. 3 queens gives a better result than 3 sixes. Not all the player characters have to survive for this to happen. Oh, this is pretty interesting. I'm wondering how this is going to work, because I don't know how I feel about it. But I mean, I love the cards. I love that part. But the collecting basically a poker hand to escape, I'm kind of curious for how this is going to work. Generate and play the adventure using watches, 6-hour periods, 4 each day, and actions. Each watch, a different player chooses the group's action. Some actions may spend additional watches, track cold, weather, events, and encounters using the Longwinter calendar as normal. Play starts with all the cards in the deck. During play, cards will be played into 3 additional areas: the discard pile, the misfortune pile, and the player's card collection. If at any time there are not enough cards in the deck to draw from, shuffle the discard pile and add it to the bottom of the deck. Okay. So it looks like we're going to be, it seems like we're abstracting out a bit, right? So we've gone from presumably playing however you play, but now we're clearly zooming out. So for every, 6-hour time period, players are going to pick something to do. So you're not really playing moment by moment anymore. It's more kind of like you're playing in a hex crawl or something where you're saying, what are we doing in this time frame? We're marching or whatnot. So the player actions are travel, rest, build shelter, and explore. And so with travel, I think we're going to understand rest. I think we understand build shelter. You're probably going to want shelter. Frederick says, Session 0, you have been brought to a small mining town deep in the mountains. Your map shows a secret passage off the deep mine shaft. An old friend told you for an electron piece. I will give you the info. I say, oh, that would be pretty good. I think that's a kind of a hook for this area. Sure. That would work. Okay, so there we have our actions. Travel, rest, build a shelter, or explore. The misfortune pile. Whenever a card placed on the misfortune pile is lower in value than the previous card in that pile, the referee immediately uses it to generate a challenge on the character the heroes encounter. Kings are the only cards lower in value than aces. Jokers are higher in value than every other card except sevens. All right, so we're playing with some kind of interesting rules. The referee then shuffles the whole misfortune pile and adds it to the bottom of the deck. All right, wait, I don't know if we've gotten when we draw cards yet. So I'm not going to go through all of these. Clubs are forests. So one of clubs is the abandoned lookout. The mule road snakes along the rugged mountain flank. Dark fir forests rise above cliffs and tumbled rocks collapse into torrents below. A blackened bunker complex dusted in snow keeps dead-eyed watch atop an outcrop. The road continues through a tunnel carved beneath. Let's see, we have some notes here. Ambushers and defenders are advantaged. It's easy to avoid the worst of the weather here. So there's some spilled grain and a cautious patrol featuring Braid Icewinkler, Dale Everloyal. Oh, I guess those are two. Sorry, there's two of them. Two baronial soldiers in padded greatcoats armed with walking spears and red yard lead spitters. I don't know what that is. Sounds like some kind of early gun. Both are also decked with holy stones of the three avatars, and one is named Braid Icewinkler, the other is named Dale Everloyal. So that's that one. And we got the old hamlet, isolated facility, so on and so forth. I'm not going to read all of these, but it's cool. You get one for everything. Where's the last one? Over the Wolffolk Forest, that's on the Queen of Clubs. Spruce and pine and oak crowd close. Their branches obscure the sky. Their roots obscure the ground. Bronze spikes remain where the Wolffolk sacrificed the devil's grandfather and the earth beater. Defenders are strongly advantaged among the trees. Travel is slowed. The wind is much weakened. So remember, we're not. I guess we saw this before, right? We don't know what does it mean they're strongly advantaged. That's going to be up to you in the system you're using. So he's just giving us kind of generic terminology for, is that mean you get a +2, whatever, right? So presumably this is because they have cover from the trees. So defenders take cover in the trees, which is getting an advantage. You figure out what that means in your system. The wind is much weakened, I guess, is really just, I'm not sure if that's, I didn't see anything for whether there's some effect of the wind. So maybe it's just descriptive. I'm not sure. There's a first aid pack here, but it seems like it's called bad medicine. So presumably it ain't good. And there are some orderlies here. 3 brothers in matching winter uniforms, patched and mended. So you have Hector Bearson, Igor Bearson, and Andre Bearson. Now we get into rivers. I'll just read Breached Dam. This is the Jack. The sweeping curves of an ancient dam embrace the valley like the wings of a great white eagle. The heart of that curve is breached by an ancient gash. The old stone of the dam is worn smooth by erosion. Ice coats the boulders of the alluvial fan. River willows and woody skeletons of sunroots cluster about the dam. The enclosed location of vegetation advantage those who want to hide. The dam blocks wind, providing relief. Okay. Did we pass over what the effects of the wind works? I feel like it's telling us specifically about the wind, but I haven't seen where they said what the wind does, if anything. Greed and hunger. The ice has embraced the world. Hollow fear, the famine bear, has entered the hearts and bellies of men. The gray morality of starvation is coming, and only hard choices remain. Moderate test or begin hoarding and stealing food from the group. If there is no food, perhaps it is time to sacrifice the weakest. So this is kind of it seems like I guess, I don't know if everybody would roll on this, or you maybe pick someone at random too, but it's kind of cool. So it's, it's like a little bit of the mind game as if not insanity, it seems like there's almost a pseudo magical effect of, the kind of paranoia is taking hold that, right, affects folks in this way. And then there are some old folk guides here 2 young women hunters in sturdy parkas with long rifles and knives. Urse Duna Diogota and Wayana Ana Valez. I'm not sure if I need to read. So we have in the mountains. The one thing that I think is interesting about, so we get these hints of that inherent setting, right? So people have guns, which I wonder if they could have mentioned that up front, just because if you're playing, I suppose if you're playing 5e, you might very much have guns, but a lot of OSR ones you don't, other OSR games you don't, and then you get into this and you get all the way up here and suddenly you're finding people with rifles and things. So it might have been good. I would have said, hey, you could have noted up front, or just put a little note saying, oh yeah, and we're using firearms. So if you don't want firearms in your game, then replace them with whatever. I mean, obviously you can always do that already, but maybe it'd be nice to know just up front before you stumble on it. And the other thing that is unclear to me, so I really like these cards. I like what they're doing with them. I don't know if I like the 3 of a kind part. I guess the part that I'm finding myself torn a little bit, because on the one hand, they gave us maps that give us a kind of like, here's the grounds. Here's where you are. Here's potentially where you could be. And then you can look at that map. And maybe there is no player facing map, at least the dungeon master, you have this map. But then we come to this part and we're just drawing cards. And the cards, because they're totally random, they're no longer going to match up to the map. So it kind of makes me wonder, well, why have the map? Why not? If we're gonna play everything abstracted like we are now, why didn't we start off on this abstraction level? Because that seems a little weird to me. Because I think in a game like this, we're getting to the part where, hey, I want to get out, I want to survive. Okay, let's say we started from the front, the beginning of like where winter's starting to set. So we get fall, we get that autumn. We're able to get the kind of lay of the land, kind of understand what's around us. We're playing like we would be playing anyway, our normal game. We're getting all that. And now I get to this point, and it's like, okay, where you're moving around, draw a card. And I might be, and then they're explain, right? We're going to get explained. He says, hey, explain to everybody how the cards work. But at the same time, I might go, but I don't want to draw a card. I want to try to say what I would probably choose is ideally would be, I want to follow the river valley down around. Like, I don't want to just go up in the mountains randomly. Like I'm not trying to go up in the mountains. I'm trying to stick to this areas. Or maybe I'm going to the mountains. Why am I suddenly on a river dam? Or in a forest when I was trying to go up? It's a weird, to me anyway. You guys let me know what you think. It seems to me a little bit of there's a little disconnect there potentially for me. If I'm starting off playing one way and now I'm flipping it and now we're playing this other thing. So I was playing how we were playing, doing it, and now we're playing this kind of highly abstracted version. And I'm wondering, why not start off as highly abstracted or just stay at that level? I'm not sure. I mean, I think what I might do, or I can see doing, is shuffle those cards and actually divide them. So my first thought would be, the one nice thing is they're set up so that each suit is a certain type of terrain. We've got mountains, rivers, forests, or maybe something else. Mountains, rivers, forests, ice fields, right? I think I might divide those up. And that way I can have the players plotting their course using the terrain. And then, okay, you're here, so we're going to draw from this deck. That's the forest deck. We're going to draw from here. This is the hearts. This is this deck. And as they're moving terrains, they can do that. And the other part is we're playing for a card game, right? So there's a poker mechanic here now, where you're trying to get 3 of a kind, which is, okay, granted, it's not fully a poker deck, but you're usually getting like a mini straight or a 3 of a kind. Or I think it's a 4 cards, right? It's 4 cards straight or 3 of a kind. And that also has no relation to the actual terrain. You could be making all the decisions. I'm going south. We're doing everything right. And yet you can't leave until you draw these cards, as opposed to, well, what if we, by hook or by crook, we just got to the edge of the map? We got where our playing piece is right where it needs to be, where the next stop should be off the map. And it's like, well, but you didn't get 3 of a kind yet. It's like, so what are we supposed to do? Just go in circles until we start getting 3 of a kind? Now, obviously, as a GM, right, my advice to myself and anybody else would be, well, at that point, just F the cards. Yeah, they made it off. They made it off. We take one more travel action and we're off the map. You're good. But it is kind of again, it speaks that little disconnect. I'm not sure how I feel about it. I love the system in general with using cards. I love using different props and things. I think it's a lot of fun. It's interesting the way they've done this. I'll have to try to go find some, if I can find some folks who've played it or done this, so we can kind of see how it was to be. So just something to kind of just be aware of, I suppose, but it's cool. Now, here we go. The last location. The players collect their last card, completing 3 of a kind or 4 in a row. The last location is the escape from Resin. Presenting the escape. As referee, you may add something like this to the last location. A mild breeze announces the end of Winterwhelm's reach. The snow does not end yet, but in the still winterland, the sound of dripping, melting ice can be heard. A bird trills, the smell of wood smoke, a crofter, a federal outpost, help at hand. Then make a final encounter check and describe the last challenge. If the last NPC is helpful, they can be ignored. You can remind the players that only one of them has to get out for them to, quote unquote, win. So this is obviously more for if you're playing in almost like a tournament kind of thing. Like your goal of this thing is to win it, and hey, not everybody has to get out to win, so whatever. And then you can score the escape. So if you're playing this as kind of a tournament kind of game, then you could do some scoring. And I really like scoring. I don't know if I mentioned this, but I remember with Bandit's Keep, I kind of talked him into adding some kind of scoring mechanisms to one of his con games. It can be fun. This part doesn't come in handy, obviously, if you're just inserted this into your campaign. There's no scoring, right? But if you're playing it kind of as almost a mini game, then sure. Now, nothing says they agree is more of a game, less of a simulation. I like the flavor is great though. Yes, lots of flavor. And there it is, Finn. So yeah, it almost feels like 2 games. It does feel like 2 games, which is interesting. It feels like the escape is a completely different game than this stuff before. And I think if I was going to choose one, I really like the first half up until we get to the escapes. Got all this great, you got factions set up, all these things. We've got the maps. And like, I love these maps, and they've got that look. Reminds me of Tower of the Tower of Silver Axe. Why am I spacing out on the name? Really cool, nice maps. And then the second half of the game kind of ditches all that, which just to me, just doesn't jive. Because if we're all right, the winter's fallen and we happen to be in Gamilli, and we've been moving around, we know we got to get down here past to Chody and then south. I think I would want to play the characters making their choices through here. And maybe they want to cut. Now, obviously, this is going to look very different. I suppose we should probably go through to here. Maybe, can they cut through here? Is it impassable? And we don't have any rules for that either, right? Because once we get here, we're supposed to go to the cards. But I kind of want to know, well, can this be crossed? Could you, what's going on here? Could you try to do something? Like, what can you do? I think just for me, I wish that the second half of the escape mirrored the first half instead of going to basically a completely separate minigame. That said, I really like the cards. I could see using something similar like that. I like the setup. I like how he's able to use descriptive language to give some specificity to things without delving into mechanics. We didn't see any mechanics other than tables. Nothing there to indicate any kind of game you should be playing this with. Just all comes from the options presented and is using language that will generally fit whatever game you're using. A lot. Let me know what you guys think. Either, whenever you end up watching or listening to this. This was Longwinter by Luka Rejec. Again, apologies if I've done some name butchery. But really fun. Love the art style. Really well put together. I love the first half. Conceptually, I like some stuff in the second half, but I don't love the second half in terms of something I'd want to use to play, especially if I'm using the first half of the book, because I just think there's kind of an expectation simulation kind of mismatch there that would seem, I think it would seem weird to me as a player. It feels weird to me as a GM, but let me know if you've played it. Let me know what your feelings on it were. We will do another Itchy Monday probably on a Monday, presumably. So we'll pick something new. Now that I've got this under my belt, we will pick something new. I have some other stuff I need to read. And of course, Muster is always there, going to be on the horizon to delve into more of that as well. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Send me your comments. Send me whatever you'd like to send me. And with that said, enjoy the rest of your day, night, whenever you end up watching or listening to this. Game on. And I will talk to you later. Bye now.